So I'm Elsa Benhofer. I'm the EUKI Academy Coordinator, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this important discussion. EUKI is the European Climate Initiative, which is a funding instrument of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, BMWK, to strengthen cooperation in the EU in the further development and implementation of its climate policy. With the Polish Presidency having begun on January 1st, 2025, today's event will focus on key issues such as energy security, combating climate disinformation, and ensuring a socially responsible energy transition. We will discuss how the upcoming 6 months can be leveraged to guide the European Union toward a socially responsible implementation of energy and climate policies, while enhancing global competitiveness and fostering cohesion among member states, as well as what role civil society can play in enriching the Polish presidency's action plans with maybe innovative and inclusive approaches. Our distinguished speakers will share their insight and expertise. Thank you already now for that, helping us understand the opportunities in advancing energy and climate policies during this presidency. Before we introduce today's speakers, let me introduce the moderator of today, Kasia Ugrin. She's the Central and Eastern Europe Network Coordinator of Can Europe. Can Europe is an NGO coalition empowering civil society organizations to influence the design and development of effective climate change policy in Europe. Kasia's focus lies on accelerating the just transition to a decarbonized, people-centered energy system within the CEE region. She has over 14 years of experience working on climate and energy issues within Poland and across the CEE region. Can Europe is part of the EUKI community since 2019 and has successfully implemented 2 EUKI projects. And together with their colleagues from the Center of Transport and Energy, Klimafocus, and National Society of Conservationists, Friends of the Earth Hungary, they are currently implementing the EUKI project, strengthening ownership of climate policy in Central and Eastern Europe. With this project, they are increasing CEE policymakers' ownership of EU climate policy by improving their understanding of the EU climate agenda and the benefits of climate action. Thank you again for co-hosting today's web seminar. Over to you, Kasia.
Thank you, Elsa. It's my pleasure to welcome our amazing guests here, and it's also my pleasure to see a lot of new but also well-known faces from both EUKI community as well as Can Action Network Europe's community. I'm really happy because I have the feeling that it's already becoming a little bit of kind of a tradition, because that's a second webinar we are doing together around presidencies. The first one was hosted by our both organizations in July on Hungary. Now I think with the second one, we really have this maybe track already of having a series. And I also believe that maybe with this Polish 6 months, there will be more space for all of us to act around the EU policies and also cooperate with the Polish presidency in this form or another. So I'm really happy that we are all here, and I don't want to prolong any further discussions, intro discussions, because we don't have so much time. So if okay for you, Elsa, then I'll already invite our first speaker to share her insights. Izabela Zygmunt from the representation of the European Commission in Warsaw will start with just very brief presentation of what milestones we can expect on the EU level from this 6 months. And then we will have, as you may know, the inputs from the Polish civil society, both on energy, climate, as well as on the funding side of things. And then we will have a CEE perspective also as a kind of kick-off to our discussion afterwards, what we could do as especially Central Eastern European civil society, how we can become present within these 6 months of the Polish presidency, but also beyond the region. So I now give floor to Izabela, and yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kasia. I'll try to be brief, and in fact, I'll be brief by necessity, because we are meeting at a moment where the new commission has just started, and unfortunately, I apologize for that, but I won't have much of substance to communicate to you, because things are very much fluid right now, and we do not yet know much more than was communicated by the president before the new College of Commissioners was fully established. So if I could ask for the next slide, but before I go into these three I would say milestones of what's coming next. Just maybe a quick reminder or explanation about how things work in the EU, because Poland is holding the presidency of the Council. I'm speaking here on behalf of the Commission. These two institutions have slightly different roles. The Commission proposes legislative proposals or new initiatives, whereas the Council, together with the Parliament, decides on them and co-legislates. So the calendars of the Commission and of the Council are not necessarily, I would say, fully synchronized. But I don't think this is anything new for you. So to the point, the three main things or initiatives in the areas of climate and energy for the coming months. These are those that you can see on the slide. I know for sure that the Clean Industrial Deal will be presented during the Polish presidency. I cannot tell you anything about the timing of the other two. So, of course, works will be starting on them. And if you are looking for spaces to, to do advocacy, to have the civil society voice heard, I'm sure there will be opportunities in the coming months. But I cannot really tell you that this will be something that the Commission will propose during the Polish presidency. So this one disclaimer is something to bear in mind. That said, as I said, works will be, of course, proceeding on these on all three of them. So first of all, the Clean Industrial Deal. This is one of the, I would say, biggest or most widely talked about initiatives of the new Commission. It's a new, I would say, a new step in the implementation of Europe's ambition to become climate neutral until mid-century, and it tackles another sector of the economy. You know very well that European regulations for the energy sectors have been in place for a while. The previous Commission dealt extensively with emissions from transport and building. These were the main sectors of interest in the Fit for 55 package. And now we will be moving to another sector which still needs to be decarbonized if we are to meet our climate ambitions, namely industry. So the Clean Industrial Deal communication is going to be presented, in fact, quite soon. It is expected in February, and it will deal with various aspects of industrial decarbonization. First of all, of course, reducing emissions in industries which use fossil fuels. You will remember that the previous Commission had a plan, an initiative for clean tech industries, those needed for for the new technologies, new solutions. But the Clean Industrial Deal now looks back at the fossil-based industries and ways to decarbonize them, and this will include also a look at the ensuring the supply of strategic raw materials that we need for the transition in two main aspects, namely the circular economy, because it cannot all be just mined. We have to make sure that the metals and the other elements that we need for the transition, they just circulate in a closed circuit as much as possible. And where that's not possible, then of course EU will be looking to establish new trade partnerships to ensure that the industrial transition can proceed unimpeded. The other big new initiative as far as climate is concerned is the European Climate Adaptation Plan. It was announced by President von der Leyen last summer, in fact. And you realize that Europe is facing increasing climate risks. We just had the first climate risk assessment by the European Environment Agency, which showed that we are indeed very vulnerable. Then the actual climate disasters in Spain, in Poland, and in other places showed that the European Environment Agency was not exaggerating. So the European Climate Plan will be about increasing our resilience, our preparedness to climate-related risks. So this will be like we I mean in this company with climate NGOs. I think I had the impression that the focus used to be or has been more on climate change mitigation, but with the legislation for the 2030 target firmly in place and now under implementation, we can look at the adaptation side more. And finally, a very important climate proposal for this year, Europe's new NDC, that is the 2040 emissions reduction target. You will remember that the Commission has already revealed its thinking about the targets for 2040, suggesting that Europe is able to reach 90% of emissions reduction by the end of the next decade, and the proposal to codify this into European law will be presented this year, and of course Europe will take it to the next COP. But here again, I'm not able to tell you about the timeline of the works because the Commission's work program is not there yet even. But of course, I don't expect this work to not to start very soon. So these are the three main elements. Of course, there will be ongoing work on things that were started by the previous Commission, but these three are the main. I would add one more to conclude, which is not strictly related to energy and climate, but also crucially important. Of course, the Commission, I mean, the whole European Union is already discussing how to approach the next EU budget, and of course, the budget will be absolutely key to to everything that happens on climate and energy. But here, I mean, the discussion is already underway within the institutions and among the public, among experts and stakeholders, and it will continue. And then I would say this is also a fourth element that's also very important to bear in mind, even if it's not like directly and immediately, concerned with climate and energy, but spans other issues as well. So that would be it from my side, and I won't be leaving you immediately. I look forward to listening to the discussion, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Isa. I already see there are some questions popping up, but we thought that we would firstly go through the inputs and then do a short Q&A session for all the questions that will appear in the meantime. So I'm seeing the question of Boris on disinformation, but I leave it for afterwards, just in case Isa would like to reply directly in the chat. That's also fine, but I think we will also address exactly this topic within our inputs in a minute, so that will also be one of the focus of the meeting. So without any further delay, thank you once more, and now I'm giving the floor to Krzysztof Mrozek from the Polish Green Network, who will briefly say about the energy-related plans and timelines of the Polish presidency, and also the Polish NGOs and civil society demands in this context. I'm not really sure, Krzysztof, if you want to present slides or would you just talk? That's all up to you, but the floor is yours.
Hi, hello everybody. My name is Krzysztof Mrozek. I'm head of EU funds for climate program at the Polish Green Network. And yes, indeed, I have slides, but I have only sent them to the organizers a few minutes ago. So if you allow me to share my screen myself, I guess it will be the easiest way. And of course, I'm facing a little technical issues now, so bear with me for a second, please. Not easy. Kasia, do you have my presentation?
I also have it, so...
Can you maybe show it, please? Sorry.
Fine for you, yeah, I can share them.
It's the second or third presentation online today, and apparently too much for my computer, and it doesn't cooperate anymore. Perfect, thank you. And let's go to the next slide right away.
Yes.
Okay, the priorities of the Polish presidency. The main slogan of the presidency is Security Europe, which links to the renowned quotation from Bill Clinton's "Economy is stupid." And we didn't like this slogan, the Security Europe. We thought it doesn't cover what is the most important in the presidency, but it was explained to us by the one of the ministers responsible for the presidency that they want to make this link with Clinton's quotation to link with this hype for focus on competitiveness and to show that there are other aspects of the European Union that should be addressed, and they framed the whole thing as security. And as you see, these three main priorities of the second Polish presidency, the first one was 14 years ago, are all linked to security. I marked in green ones that are of key importance to us, although when we discuss future EU budget, the energy, clean air, and so on and so forth. Each of these priorities is important indeed, including health security that I didn't mark here, but resistance to foreign interference and disinformation, ensuring security and freedom of business, and here labor rights, condition of the labor market and social guarantees are included. Energy transition, of course, I don't need to explain why it's important for us, and competitive and resilient agriculture, very important discussion ahead for the next multi-annual financial framework for 2028, 2034, and so on. If you could switch to the next slide, please. Perfect. Let's start with our CSO's initiatives, what we do in Poland to interfere, work, influence on the Polish presidency. First, we worked in the informal CSO group, which was moderated and led by Kasia, our moderator here. Thanks, Kasia, a lot. I think we all very appreciate this dialogue that started early spring last year. So we had a lot of time to discuss our ideas and to share them with the government. We had multiple meetings, mostly with the climate ministry, but also with other ministries and officials. And we see that some of our recommendations really sink in, like the one on disinformation. It was us, and it was also the Polish Presidency CSO Council that I had a pleasure to be the member of, that encouraged the government to include climate disinformation in the list of priorities, and respective actions are planned during the Polish presidency. Last autumn, from September to December, we worked in the Polish Presidency CSO Council in the Prime Minister Chancellery, led by Minister Magdalena Sobkowiak-Czarnecka, who is directly responsible for the Polish presidency. We had meetings with responsible ministers of different topics, these topics that you saw on the previous slide. And we also, in a group of green NGOs in this council, prepared a list of recommendations. Some of them I will show you in a moment in the following slides. And also we cooperate, the Polish Grid Network is a member of Bankwatch, and we together, PGN and Bankwatch and E3G colleagues, cooperate on the future MFF, the future EU budget in general, but also in scope of this presidency with a very nice EUKI project that we just started in December. And I will tell you a little bit more of what we plan here in the next slides. And if you could, switch the slide, please. Perfect. We agreed that I will say a few words about three topics. One is energy security, then there's a little bit about the future MFF and the social climate fund and the social aspect. In general, not all of them are covered by the presidency. I can make this spoiler right away. But energy security indeed is covered by the Polish presidency. You can find on the website of the Polish Presidency a very nicely formatted Polish Presidency program, not very long, and it describes the Polish vision. I really encourage everybody who's interested for a little bit deeper dive into Polish plans to take a look and just scroll through it. Important parts are marked in bold, so it's not a long lecture, but an interesting one. And Poland plans what I think is very important and should be, other member states should be encouraged to take it on board, is acceleration of implementing the Repower EU, the phase out of Russian fossil fuels, and security of fuels and security of energy. But in this scope, the government of Poland focuses mostly on sources of replacement of Russian fossil fuels, and we encourage them to speed up with deployment of renewables and energy efficiency action. And this is definitely part of the Repower EU plan, and we as civil society should definitely try to impact this process, that we don't only replace Russian gas with Norwegian gas and so on, but we replace Russian gas with clean energy from PVs, wind, and so on. And the other topic that Poland stresses in the program is security of infrastructure. This is in scope of what's happening in the Baltic, understandable, and of course, as this ad hoc measure, Poland wants to focus on it. The weakness of this whole part on the energy security, to me, is poor links between security and society. Indeed, the government put in the list building resilience, social resilience, also in terms of climate and energy. But we don't see, although they agreed with us during multiple meetings, that decentralized energy, distributed energy systems, citizen-led energy, like energy communities, is a way to increase security, and not only energy security, but much wider, by strengthening the society as such. It is not highlighted in the program of the Polish presidency. And in our recommendations, both in papers that we produced together in this informal group, and what we included in the recommendations passed through the Polish presidency, CSO Council, and some bilateral meetings, is that the EU should have energy security strategy up to date, and it's reflecting both the threats from outside the EU to the infrastructure, and solutions based on renewables and energy efficiency. The energy communities development, distributed energy, and social resilience, as I said before. And if we can switch to the next slide, please. Another topic, and my favorite, is MFF and JTF. So I believe many of you know the abbreviations. MFF is Multi-Annual Financial Framework, the 7-year budget of the EU. Now we are in the middle, exactly in the middle, because we're undergoing the midterm review of the MFF for 2021-2027. And from 2028, we should have the next one. It is not formally required by the treaties that it's 7-year long, but usually it is, although there are discussions now at the EU level that maybe it makes sense to make it shorter. But for our purpose of work, we use MFF 2028-2034, and we'll see if it sticks. We recommend that. And the JTF, I should explain, right? I mean, I believe most of you know that it's just transition fund, small one, but super important fund that supports phasing out coal and transformation of the most coal-dependent regions and the most emissive regions in Europe, where most of the economies initially. It was meant to address regions that are based on coal extraction and coal energy production, but other industries were added to this eligibility list. But in Polish case, it's coal. And this is a very specific financial instrument in the EU, focused a lot on the soft intervention, reskilling, upskilling of workers, providing this social comfort during the transition. And this is not something that the EU likes in general. I mean, it's very easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's easier to build a highway or a railway than to find new jobs for miners in a region where everybody works in mining. So there is a lot of discontent with this fund, that it goes slower than expected and the results are not astonishing. We think in the current situation, they are astonishing and it's doing very well indeed. So we want it to be continued with at least the same budget or even increased compared to the current programming period. And we see that there are very mixed opinions in the EU on this instrument. The Polish presidency the Polish government has adopted its position on the future of cohesion. There's no position yet on the future of the entire MFF, but on the future of cohesion, there is one adopted in October. And it's very pro-cohesion. In 90%, I can say that we agree with it, or 95%. But it's also pro-just transition, but not necessarily pro-just transition fund. And this is something that we keep discussing with the Polish government. Polish government says just transition process, yes. Just transition fund as a separate funding stream didn't work in their opinion, and they want to find some other solutions. We encourage them to keep it. But it of course depends on the structure of the budget. I will not go into details now, but this is interesting discussion to have. And as you see on this slide, we will continue discussion very shortly. But the Polish presidency program plans quite a lot regarding the future MFF and cohesion. Already in 2 weeks in Kraków, there is an official conference on cohesion, the European way of growth. And the high-level expert debate on the MFF takes place in mid-February in Warsaw. There will be discussions on the informal General Affairs Council, a horizontal discussion on cohesion policy that is supposed to end up with conclusions of the GAC in the cohesion format. This council is planned on 28th of March in Brussels. And also Poland wants to accelerate works under the EU urban agenda and the review of the EU 2030 territorial agenda, so important aspects of the cohesion. Among our recommendations, that some of them I already mentioned, but it's increasing the EU budget, the MFF, to at least 2 billion euro. Now it's around 1 billion without RRF, without recovery and resilience facility. And we want half of it to be spent on climate. We want stronger social aspect in green investments. We know that these funds available for each country might be less if enlargement happens, and we hope for EU enlargement, but it can mean smaller allocations. So we want that grant support is directed to mostly socially desirable investments. And we want horizontal principles to be extended to the entire MFF, like do no significant harm. Can we switch to the next slide, please? Yeah, social climate fund, nothing. There is not a word about it in the Polish plans, and we ask why. It's because Poland doesn't see that it's a front runner, and it doesn't want to promote some topic that is not a success story for Poland. Poland is now at the drafting stage. We are part of the ministerial working group preparing the social climate fund. And we are now focusing on encouraging the Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy to include energy cooperatives into the social climate plan for Poland, and to focus on their investments in energy efficiency, and to provide strong social criteria. But we met with them this Monday, and it's still not sure if it's going to be included. And next slide, please. It's the last one. I believe it's the last one. This is just something that I want to flag to you. Also, you can see on the screen that I still don't have a English cover to our briefing, because the English version will only be ready next week, and I will be happy to share it with you. It will be also on our website, but we prepared a briefing on our recommendations, Polish Green Network's recommendations for the future of cohesion, taking a stand in the EU-wide discussion on what to do with cohesion. The two conflicting ideas: improve or change dramatically towards the recovery instrument model. So we want to continue and strengthen the cohesion policy, of course, improving what doesn't work, reinforce key principles, increase the budget, strengthen the environmental dimension by, for instance, creating a dedicated biodiversity fund supporting implementation of the nature restoration law, and strengthen the social dimension, for instance, extending the do no significant harm principle to social issues. So the social taxonomy, something that we see useful. There's a lot more, but I see that Kasia is unmuting for the second time, which means that I don't have any time more. So I will put a dot here, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Krzysztof, and also thanks for reading clearly my signs. Yes, that was very insightful, and thank you for that. But in sake of the limited time we have today, and still some speakers and still some questions that are popping up all the time in the chat, I'm now giving immediately floor to Sylvia. If you feel, Krzysztof, that you can address any questions directly in the chat, feel of course free to do so. And now we move on to the more climate-oriented topics. Sylvia, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much also for having me here. If you could share my slides, that would be great. And we can directly go to the next slide. So I had the pleasure to speak today about the climate priorities of the Polish EU presidency, if there are any climate priorities or how important are they. I think you can summarize the priorities of the Polish presidency when it comes to climate and energy with this one first sentence I put here on the slide, that the aim of the Polish presidency is to maintain competitiveness of European industry on the path to climate neutrality and energy security. So it clearly shows how, in which context we can put the climate and energy transition. So it's first of all to ensure that our industry stay competitive, and that the energy security is also secure in that way. And climate is mentioned 18 times in the program of the Polish presidency. So you could think, well, it's quite often, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there are concrete climate policy measures part of this of the program of the Polish presidency. But if you read the program, you can clearly see at least three main objectives. At least I identify them as the three objectives of the program. And the next slide, please. So the Polish presidency is concentrating on fighting climate disinformation. It's concentrating also on advancing EU climate adaptation efforts. We could already hear from Isa in the beginning that's something the European Commission is working on. So definitely there will be some cooperation with the Polish presidency on that. At least that's how we understand the program. And also the Polish presidency will be focusing on presenting benefits of climate policies and trying to put forward the public acceptance of the climate policies. So they want to not only concentrate on how challenging the green transformation is, but clearly shows what are the concrete benefits of them. But I would like to address specifically the first and the third objective of the program when it comes to climate. So when it comes to fighting climate disinformation, the Polish presidency wants to prepare methods how to combat the disinformation, which on climate policy across Europe. That's something which we already heard very strongly from the Polish government in the recent months, that there are a lot of foreign influence on our public debate when it comes to climate policy. And for example, there is a commission running in Poland on which is investigating the influence of Russian and Belarusian governments. And there were some reports recently published when it was clearly see which kind of methods were used by the Russian and Belarusian special services to influence the debate on climate in Poland, like ignoring facts, ignoring the climate experts, spreading conspiracy theories. So it was really, you could see the strong presence. It's not something which is happening in Poland. It's happening across Central and Eastern Europe. It's happening also in other parts of Europe and in Germany as well. We can see it also in the public debates and also when it comes to the climate awareness in general. But that's something which the Polish presidency wants to tackle. And the third point, the benefits of climate policies, it's about showing that the transition is not only about challenges, about the difficulties, about penalties. It's a more trying to put it on the positive way and to ensure public acceptance. Public acceptance is very important for, or the social acceptance is very important for the Polish government itself. So you could also see in the national climate debates that they're saying that the carbonization is very important, but it cannot be the aim itself. It has to come with the public acceptance and also with the competitiveness of the industry. So I think we can really clearly see in these climate priorities that they are showing also the debates which they are running in Poland on those topics. And the next slide, please. But not like when you look on the program, then you can say, well, okay, there are something which we cannot see. Like, for example, we didn't find anything about, like Krzysztof already mentioned, about social climate fund. There is nothing about the European climate law revision or nothing about the 2040 climate target. But all in all, the program is safe. But I think what is important is to read between the lines. So there are some sentences in the program which clearly shows what kind of topics can be addressed by the Polish presidency, in which format it could be. So, for example, I think the line which probably all of you already heard, or at least the most of you, is about moving away from penalties and obligation and focus more on rewards and incentives. So it's really like the sentence which is repeating itself in the text. So for example, the first sentence I put here on the slide is that this is something which is put in the context of industry, and we could interpret it in the way that, for example, Poland will try to, or the Polish presidency will try to have some discussions about CO2 emission standards for cars, for example, about the penalties for car makers, which is already being addressed also by the German chancellor in the recent weeks. It could also be interpreted the way that there could be some discussions about ETS2. We already know that Polish government would be or will be probably trying to push or to to delay the implementation of ETS2. So that's something we could read from this text. Then in the second sentence, we see here as that they would like to promote fight against the cause and effects of climate change first and foremost through incentives and support and not bans and excessive burdens. So for me, it's also a clear sign that the ETS2 debate, it's something which we have to expect in that way or another, and also about ambitious 2040 climate target. That's not something which Polish presidency would put under the presidency, and as like the Commission won't publish any proposal during the Polish presidency, that's not for sure something which Polish presidency won't touch upon, because otherwise it doesn't go well with the sentences we have here. And also there's another sentence about broad approach of to the definition of energy security, encompassing access to energy at low prices, also for energy and intensive industries. With that, we can expect, in my opinion at least, that there will be some discussion about the ETS1, especially about some CO2 certificates for power generation from fossil fuels. That's something, some idea which already heard once from Poland. That we have to do something in the EU about the energy prices, and that was one of the was some extra certificates for power generations for fossil fuels. So that's my takeaways from at least when it comes to the climate priorities. There was some question in the chat about the climate dimension of agriculture. So I mean, for sure, something what we can expect is that the Polish presidency will look exactly into the European Green Deal, looking at the goals of it and trying to put them the way, or structure them the way they will be acceptable for farmers. So that's something for sure would happen, but what doesn't mean exactly, we'll see it in the next months. And the next slide, and the next slide, and the last one. The question which we also ask ourselves is, what can we do as a civil society, especially in this Central and Eastern Europe, but not only, just across Europe, to support the implementation of the EU climate targets in the upcoming 6 months? I think that engaging in combat against climate disinformation, that's something which we can do as a civil society very well together with the Polish presidency. It's also something we were discussing anyway in the last months, and as Krzysztof also said, that's also some of the topics which you as a Polish civil society try to put on the table during the Polish presidency. So I think there is a lot of potential for cooperation. And I think that also highlighting the importance of climate policy for energy security and its benefits for public acceptance are also something which the civil society can do very well and did also in the last month. So there is also possible cooperation with the Polish presidency on that topic. And the last, and I think the most important thing is that we have to realize that it's time for social and Green Deal. So it means we still need to maintain the climate ambition we have. We cannot allow that the climate ambition would go down because of the economics reasons. It has to go hand in hand, but at the same time, we have to ensure that no one is left behind, and we have to use this buzzword we have, leave no one behind, and fill it with life, with concrete ideas. And that's something we are here for, I think, as a civil society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for this input and your assessment, also addressing some questions from the chat already. For this very final thought that also Sylvia already started to address, I would like to invite Dana Markova from the Polish, from the Slovak Climate Coalition to go, a little bit more horizontal, or to make this overview from like beyond Poland, because I think we in the region have the feeling that we are still facing similar challenges across various countries. On the other hand, I have the feeling, or at least the hope, that this Polish presidency could be a kind of a place or moment to change a little bit the relationships between us in our region as civil society and the policymakers. So just some thoughts for further discussions, short discussion afterwards. Dana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and hello, everybody. I will try to indeed pull out a few elements of what already Sylvia, Krzysztof, and Isabel raised, and maybe hopefully to kickstart some discussion for the end of this meeting. So, Levin, I will ask you actually to skip the first two slides for the sake of time, because in the first two slides, I'm basically already doing that, pulling out some of the hooks as that we have as NGOs that are dealing with climate and energy issues, and that are, using tools such as campaigning, advocacy, and strategic communication. So indeed, and you may see it for yourself, I'm not going to spend time on it. Indeed, there are some hooks and some potential pitfalls that were already mentioned, especially Sylvia hinted on few in the program of Polish presidency. But I will jump directly to what can be our role. And basically, I see it in three dimensions. One part of our role is to actually put clear meanings into those buzzwords that the new commission and basically in the new mandate we see, such as competitiveness, such as simplification, indeed also such as energy security. So that's one role. I'm flagging them out first, and then I will say a few words about them. Second role of civil society is to actually keep some or defend fundamentals, and I will explain what I mean. And the third one is to act as connectors with across sectors, but also across topics. If we speak about climate and energy NGOs, so across other topics. Firstly, I will also say, though, that as Kasia was mentioning, I tend not to exaggerate the role of presidencies. After all, they're here for 6 months and they rotate rather quickly. But still, I think the Polish presidency is quite special in some ways. On the one hand, we have a new commission that is going to be defining its role and setting some tone for the next mandate. Secondly, it's coming after Hungarian presidency, which have left a lot of, didn't make a huge hole into the EU world. So there is a good potential that something interesting can come about. And thirdly, Poland is perceived as kind of a new leader, and there is a possibility that indeed with a new EU geopolitics and broader as well, but with somewhat challenging times for Germany, challenging times for France and some other classical leaders, Poland can resume this role. And it is still CEE. I mean, it'd be great if for change there was a member state from the CEE region that would be actually a strong, decisive, and good on the green and climate agenda. And some of those elements of the Polish presidency program actually, we can use for pushing and advocating. So when I say that one of our roles, one of the three roles that I was mentioning is to define, so put some meaning into buzzwords and kind of avoid that they're hijacked somewhere else. Classical is the ones about energy security. Yeah, I mean you can put so many meanings in there, and to have it only as kind of decarbonizing or disconnected from dependency on the Russian fossil fuels is wrong. I think Krzysztof, you were already mentioning it. We need to be very clear that the true energy security is it rests in energy efficiency, rests in renewables, and not to fall into pitfalls of the simplification, also over reliance on some new fuels such as unclear hydrogen, and maybe, for some of our countries, resting on nuclear without actually giving floor to alternatives and renewables. So that's one buzzword. Even more difficult to struggle with and more important to tackle is the buzzword of the competitiveness and simplification. Now, as already mentioned in what Sylvia was saying, the competitiveness can be portrayed as something that has very much climate in there, has a very much social dimension in there, but it's us NGOs that need to be bringing this on table, that need to be bringing positive examples there. This is our role. This can be our role, rather than shying away. But also we need to be very clear, and this is to keeping the fundamentals, that it is not going to, that is not meaning deregulation, that is not going to go opening legislative files such as ETS2. It can be maybe done, redefined by some delegated acts and secondary legislation, but let's keep the fundamentals. It's very important. Once the files start opening up, I think it's a very, very wrong slippery slide. And then communication, already mentioned, and I'm really glad that Polish presidency, I think, means some business here. So the communication is not, of course, only about disinformation and hoaxes, but it's really elevating the role of EU, and connecting it exactly with the social, climate, and competitive, and so on. And I think that Commission has not been very good in defending its own role in some of our member states, and our citizens actually don't know what is the important role of the Commission and what good the Commission and the EU in general is doing. And I think there is some big danger in there. This needs to be started by the Polish presidency, and based on talking to the representatives of Poland, we were assured that they even want to have this as a continual kind of topic of the Commission, the positive communication of the role of EU. The last one that I will mention in this slide, and then I will quickly jump to the other one, to the last slide, is I think that NGOs and civil society have an important role to play, and we should be more active and making sure that that all the elements that are now there, such as participation, such as all the different processes, that we use them well, and that actually by continual efforts we actually show to the representatives of the Council as well as the Commission that we can actually be a trusted partner, and we can bring some benefits to the discourses. My last slide, please, and that's the role as connectors. I think that most of the files on the energy and climate front will be done by the Fit for 55 when it's implemented, but the new files will be also very much influencing the decarbonization, and that circularity, REACH as a chemical policy, and all these elements also have their kind of pioneers. And us as climate NGOs, I think it's our role to be actually making sure that the EU institutions are well connected with those that have expertise and are representing these areas, because it can be mutually beneficial. And also our role is to be, being better in contact and connecting those that are beyond the NGO world. So may it be associations, small, medium enterprises, faith-based organizations or unions or youth organizations. I think they really bring a big value, and this is our role too. Over from me.
Thank you very much. That was our last input. We formally have only 5 minutes left, but I think we can easily prolong by 5 or 10 more. So I have the feeling personally that actually I think all the questions that you raised in the chat were somehow addressed, but if you feel there is still some space for any additional questions, now we still have our speakers with us. Isa unfortunately needed to leave us already, but I also had the feeling before, or we talked before, that she is not really able to reveal any more details that she would that she had already done in her opening speech. So if you want to ask any of our amazing speakers or just share your thoughts about what you just heard, now it's the time. So yeah, I open now the floor for any thoughts you might have, anybody, on how we can still engage or what to push for, especially in the context of what we just heard. But also if you have any still specific questions about some topics that were presented by the speakers, feel free. And I'm already seeing Verena's hands. So Verena, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all presentations. It was really insightful. I would actually have a question to the first speaker. I think she unfortunately left us, but maybe you can answer the question as well. So it's about the securing critical raw material. I was listening to it, and I'm actually working for German Watch in my role as policy advisor for the Western Balkans. And as such, I'm always getting nervous if I hear securing critical raw material. I mean, what does it mean? How does the Polish presidency now even take into consideration the critique of Serbian civil society, who are heavily fighting against this lithium deal with Serbia and the European Union? So what is your standpoint regarding this? And for the second speaker, about who's presenting the Polish civil society, I would have the question, like, when you advocate for including a just transition fund also in the next commission, then would you also kind of be open to open this just transition fund also to the countries of the Western Balkans as pre-accession countries?
Thank you. I think Isa indeed already left. So if you could maybe share the question in written, then I can forward it to her, unless any of our speakers wants to address the critical materials issue. So that would be amazing. I can ask Isa and then come back to you. Sylvia, do you have a reply directly on that? Then I let you go, and then I would ask Krzysztof to reply to the question on the Just Transition Fund. Okay?
As Isa mentioned in the beginning, not necessarily the topics and the calendar. It's combined with like the presidency calendar and activities, and the topics are not necessarily the same as the Commission ones. But when you ask what is the stand of the Polish presidency when it comes to critical raw materials, then for sure what we can tell you, like looking on the program, is that they want to reduce the dependence on the critical raw materials. So it means to be more, so for Poland, security means also be less dependent on from other countries. How far it applies to also to West Balkans, for example, that's something I cannot really answer here. But on the other side, we also clearly know that for the Polish government, but also from this presidency, Ukraine and West Balkan are two important regions. They want to keep closely in mind and have some special activities within this region during the upcoming 6 months. So that's my point on that, what I can share.
Thanks, Sylvia. Krzysztof, would you like to jump in for the Just Transition Fund?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thanks for this question. Indeed, it's very important. I mean, there is no reason that coal region in Western Balkans or elsewhere outside the EU should be considered worse than one inside the EU. But having said this, I think it's very problematic in terms of the current state of discussion around the JTF in general to think of a possibility of it being extended as as an instrument as it is now, because now it's part of the cohesion policy. Not sure if it's going to be continued whatsoever. There are ideas of having one merged fund per country and their allocation for interventions that are now covered by the Just Transition Fund. This is the approach that we don't like. We would like this fund to be kept. But even if it's kept, its budget is likely to be maintained at the similar level as it is now, so below 20 billion euro. And it's not even enough to support the currently participating regions of the Just Transition process. So the huge reform increase in the budget would be needed for this specific instrument to be extended to the countries outside. But perhaps it's possible to think of including the Just Transition intervention, with considering that we will continue with the similar setting that it is now formally, to include Just Transition allocation as part of the pre-accession funds for the countries outside, like working on similar rules and participating in exchange of good practices and coordination. But I suppose, on a practical manner, it's not what I want. It's what I think is now on the table. It's very difficult to extend this specific fund to countries that are not members for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Krzysztof. Any final questions, last ones, or any final thoughts that somebody would like to share on like what should really be the push of the civil society towards the presidency? Having heard what we just heard, then now it's the time. I'm not really seeing anything, so I think I would, as a final thought, very much thank once more to all our amazing speakers. I hope it was comprehensive insight into the Polish presidency. We are still here, so if you feel after having heard what they say that you would like to engage more around specific topics of security, of renewables, of climate disinformation, co-benefits, or even ETS2, just feel free to reach out to us. We are here. We are all working on these various topics, also on funds. I think for the final thoughts, for the final kind request, we would like to share with you a link, right, to the evaluation form. So I think one of the EUKI colleagues will share it with us all in the chat. So if you were so kind to spend some more minutes after this webinar to share with us what we can improve beyond the timing and more time for the discussion. That's always, I think, or usually the case. That would be amazing. So I hope that the link can be pasted into the chat now. Yes, and I would like to thank very much also EUKI for this opportunity, because I think that's really a nice cooperation and gathers our both communities to understand more what's going on. And yes, I hope that we will be able to invite you to another webinar like this in a half of a year, or maybe even before, to some kind of maybe evaluation of the Polish presidency. Then the next one would be Danish one, so a little bit different context than Hungary and Poland, maybe a little bit more optimistic, but maybe Poland will also surprise us in a very positive way. Having again heard what we heard today, there are maybe some chances. So yes, Elsa, over to you for some final words. Thank you from my side once more, and hope it was useful and inspirational for your work.
Thank you very much, Kasia. And just left for me to say thank you to Kasia, Sylvia, Dana, Krzysztof, Isabella already left, and thank you all of you for joining today. We will send the short reports and also share the evaluation again. Yeah, then have a nice afternoon, stay safe, and see you hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.